The title Canyons immediately brings up an image of a vast landscape. Why did you choose this as your title?
Well, the melody and the title came to me very organically. I was improvising at the piano, just playing three notes over and over again, and reflecting on the period of time in which we all found ourselves over the last couple of years, and been extended periods of obviously self-doubt and anxiety, and I wanted to write a piece that gave space to those emotions, you know, navigating deep reservoirs, canyons, if we like, of anxiety, but also in a hopeful way, as we've all sort of coped with adversity and rise on through it and fight our demons and come out the other side. And so this is a piece that brings hope to these times in a way. And I chose particular instrumentations and orchestrations when we start off with a sort of ghostly upright piano, and there's a sort of solitary experience and playing this particular instrument, and then it goes through all of these sort of incarnations and manifestations throughout the piece.
Cool. So coming up with the theme, it was just a case of improvisation.
Yeah, it was really. It was improvisation, but also musing on harmony as well. We had, if I turn to the piano a moment, just the idea of this kind of feeling where I love pieces like Clair de Lune, and I wanted to write a piece that had that kind of simplicity but had some kind of melodic arc to it as well. So and just exploring some of those melodic ideas and harmonic ideas, and really just follow the melody where it takes me.
Cool. And at the beginning, you mentioned this ghostly piano.
Yeah.
Like, what was that sound? Like, I really liked the way you could hear the mechanics of the piano as well. Like.
Yeah. So because of the sort of rawness of this album, the album project, and particularly in this piece, I wanted to bring together a collection of instruments that allowed me to explore these different kind of emotions and dynamics and vulnerabilities in music. And so I took a lot of time, some months actually, it's about 6 months, finding these specific instruments and finding the right space to record them in, finding the right piano tuner, the right technician, the right kind of felt. And I remembered, well, first of all, I wanted to choose the grand piano because I wanted the other pianos to complement that. And I remember the piano that I played for Andrew Marr, actually, at BBC. So we got that piano in as a Bösendorfer Grand. And then I contacted an associate down at Real World Studios, where we ended up recording the piano. And I got sent loads and loads of videos and of particular instruments, and we found one that had been played, I think, but used with by Harry Styles. So we used that piano because it was just incredible, so soulful, and there was just so many stories that I could hear in this particular piano. And so that piano can be heard on the opening of Canyons. And then we found another Yamaha piano that was very, very different in quality. I had a very different feel. So in fact, I think it's 3 pianos that can be heard on Canyon. And then in the production process is a question of really grading those pianos so that it felt very organic as one transitioned into another. So at the start you can hear one of those upright pianos. But that was a very exacting process, the process of production and also finding those pianos and finding the right piano tuner. In the end, we found an amazing lady, Julia, I think her name was, who stayed with us for that entire period. We took a week to record piano. She was there 24/7, and she was just the best. we'd wake up every morning, she'd already be in the studios, and she had to look after these pianos. Of course, we looked after her, I hope. We had the most wonderful time down at Real World Studios with the entire crew. But it was such an intense period of music making and production and maintenance and all the rest of it. But it was also really energizing as well. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, it must have been so fun playing at Real World with a gang of pianos. Like, that sounds like a dream.
That's exactly what it was like. It was a dream, and this is starting to sound like an advert for Real World Music Studios, but it was just such an amazing time down there. I had an incredible engineer, Ollie Jacobs, and Katie as well, who was fabulous. And the team had a wonderful chef, stayed in a beautiful cottage on the grounds, surrounded by, you know, waterfalls and ponds, and then the pianos were there, and so we brought the, as I said, brought the Bösendorfer in, and this other collection of quirky instruments, I would say, that we used on the album. These quirky uprights, but for me it was just incredible. You know, to write music and to be able to share it with people, and is an incredible gift, just to be able to do that, and to be able to work in such inspiring locations as well is just unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. And just coming back to the track, like, I found there was so much joy in this track. Like, could you speak more to the emotions you were trying to, I guess, convey in this? Or
Yeah, 100%. So I guess that vulnerability that you can hear at the start with the piano, that it's an incredibly fragile kind of texture that was created, I think. And in that moment then, as the melody starts to unravel and uncoil, it sort of moves into more sonorous and cohesive melody, and an arc starts to appear. We then transition from that upright into the grand piano. And then the orchestra, we used, I'll talk about the orchestra later on, the orchestra comes in, we used a fabulous symphony orchestra in Vienna, and that process was also wonderful. And as the track sort of moves along this dynamic arc, the emotions start to open up. These canyons of doubt that I sought to express in this piece start to open, and those kind of internal fights that we all go through from time to time when we go through difficult periods of time. And then sometimes we have these little victories that we can call our own, that no one can see sometimes, but we're able to resolve these issues through clarity of thought. And I just wanted to represent these things in the music. So when those joyous moments appear, it's often because I'm seeking to reflect that in the music, and then texturally it becomes richer, more sonorous, and then at times we sort of undulate and move back to those fragile moments when we're feeling more exposed and more vulnerable. So it's a piece that seeks to express all those gamuts of emotion, and hopefully people will be able to respond to that and see that in the music.